So we're reaching the end of the year, and I figure that we may as well have a look at Britain's relationship to social justice come the end of 2018. Because it's pretty wild, it's pretty informative, and honestly I think that we can really say that it's improved everyone's lives. Thank goodness that social justice activists are busy pushing this onto the rest of us, because otherwise, what would we do? We would have a terribly racist and misogynistic and transphobic and homophobic country, if not for the intersectional types. So what sins against intersectionality have we seen in the past couple of months? Well, about a week ago, apparently the UK advertising watchdog said it was going to ban harmful gender stereotypes in adverts. I guess it's really harmful for a traditional family to be represented on television for some reason. The UK's advertising watchdog said it will ban gender stereotypes that are likely to cause harm or serious or widespread offence. Why? I mean, who is widely offended by the idea of a man working and a woman being a housewife, looking after the children? What kind of person is offended by that? Because are they the kind of person that should be pandered to, or should they be told to get over it, you fucking weird-ass commies? The Committees of Advertising Practice said that the harmful stereotypes in adverts contribute to how people see themselves and their role in society. It's possible. I mean, I think that the adverts probably reflect the society from which they are produced, but there's no doubt there is some kind of reinforcing mechanism that normalises the idea of men and women getting married and having children. Which, I mean, that's just harmful. The ban will cover men struggling with household chores or girls being less academic than boys. Well, they would just not be stereotypical at all, would they? I mean, at the moment, girls are more academic than boys, apparently, as more women are in universities than men because of affirmative action policies, and policies designed to specifically reduce the number of men in any one given space, and increase the number of women, of course. Now that we're about 60% women and 40% men, looks like we're going to need affirmative action the other way, doesn't it? But we'll come to that in a minute. Anyway, the change follows a review of the gender stereotyping in adverts by the Advertising Standards Authority, the organisation that administers the UK advertising codes. Look, stereotypes are not offensive in and of themselves. Like, a stereotype is a representation of what people see. And in many cases, I mean, in this case, it's kind of lampooning a time that was in another country, in another era, that is never going to come back, at least probably not within our lifetimes. So, who cares if there is this gender stereotype? I mean, the very fact that this is portrayed this way is, it's a joke. It's a form of satire, frankly. The review found that harmful stereotypes can restrict the choices, aspirations and opportunity of young people, children and adults, and these stereotypes can be reinforced by some advertising which plays a part in unequal gender outcomes. I don't care about unequal gender outcomes at all. You will always have unequal gender outcomes because men and women are different. They don't seek the same life paths, which means they end up with different results, and that's okay. It's okay for men and women to be different. The only reason you would even pursue any of this kind of social engineering is if you were some kind of neo-Marxist who wanted these things to be exactly the same all across the board, which is something you can't do. At least not without a significant dose of authoritarianism to promote some at the expense of others, to hold back men to promote women, and after doing that for the last 10 years, you realise that you've been hurting people who you don't care about, who remain nameless, and who, again, I'm coming on to the next one too quickly, and who become, frankly, the target of your ire. If we weren't concerned by the feminist conception of absolute gender parity, then there would be absolutely no problem here, and people would be able to go on with their lives and advertise as they want, and none of this would have even been a discussion, because people would have been just getting on with their lives as they saw fit. Those people who didn't want to conform to any stereotypes won't. Those people who don't care or actually want to will. But if we do that, we're going to get unequal gender outcomes. And that's the most important thing here. It's not whether men and women are happy. It's not whether they're pursuing the life goals that they want to pursue. It's whether they're the same. Ella Smiley, the policy expert at CAP, told the BBC there is nothing new in our guidance to suggest that ads can't feature people carrying out gender-typical roles. The issue would be in the depiction if it suggested that it's the only option available to that gender and never carried out by someone of another gender. But this is the point. This is where it gets ridiculously granular and pointless. The issue would be if, in the depiction, it suggested that the only option was available. So, for example, if you had a woman doing the cleaning, we wouldn't anticipate a problem. Except for that previous picture. I mean, there are definitely going to be problems coming, but we don't anticipate them. I mean, we assume that it's okay to picture a woman doing cleaning. But if you had an advert with a man cleaning lots of mess and putting his feet up while the woman cleaned around him, and it was very clear that she was the only person who did that at home, how do you know? Then that's the kind of thing that could be a problem. Why the hell should anyone let these authoritarians tell you that that's a problem? Do you really want these people deciding what is and is not a problem in this regard? Is this really what we want? Well, I mean, you know, it's okay to have a woman cleaning in some circumstances, but in other circumstances, this is highly offensive to feminism, good sir. And I mention all of this because, unironically, men are becoming a minority group on university campuses, and they have had to launch a drive for affirmative action for white males. Because affirmative action for everyone else has been so successful, and white men have had no interest groups speaking up in their behalf, that they have just been victimised by the feminist status quo. Essex and Ashton universities have become Britain's first non-elite institutions to write the targets into their official recruitment plans, putting white males on a par with black students and women engineers. This is just great. This is exactly what social justice does to a country. This is precisely what happens when you take the attitude of a social planner and you say, you know what, this society is pretty good, but I could have done it better. And now, once again, like, oh, there's a problem. Well, men are a minority group. I thought we were against people being unfairly victimized as minority groups. Oh, now we have to do something for the men. But the men were the oppressors. My goodness, we've tied ourselves into a bloody pretzel. And it goes on and on and on because there is no end to this until they have control of every aspect of your life to make sure that it's equal with everyone else. Make sure that the outcomes are the same, because if the outcomes aren't the same, well, racism? Sexism? Who knows? Some kind of ism. It's not that people make choices and we have a free system, or we had a free system, that allowed you to make the decisions you wanted to make and achieve as and when you could achieve. Oh no! It's because everyone's a fucking racist. In 2016-17, 27% of the UK undergraduate intake were white males, down from 30% in 2007 to 2008. So what are we saying? These people were a minority anyway, and that minority is shrinking? Weird, isn't it? I can't believe social justice has targeted white males and now white males are suffering for it. I mean, they're already the people in this country who are failing in education, but that's okay. They're just white men. They're terribly oppressive. Have you not seen the number of CEOs that are white men? I'm sure that's a really relevant thing for the average kid on a council estate who's desperately struggling to make ends meet, to find out that, by the way, you were born white and male and therefore you're not eligible for this place at university. Don't give a shit about your grades. Get the fuck out, you oppressor. I can't believe the SJWs are not happy with this. A study led by King's College London said, "We found that people were quite uncomfortable with the idea of running a targeted activity for this group, as in white males, in the same way we've not encountered, for example, targeting young black African men." It's weird, isn't it? We've had quite a lot of people saying this is going to be a white-only event, isn't it? Well, I presume that the ones targeting black men were black-only events. Because social justice brings segregation. Once it has demarcated them all into their separate groups based on these arbitrary characteristics, then they have to be policed closely. You better watch your mouths because the diversity police are always watching. Don't call it a grave, it's the future you chose. Of course, we had to have the conversation as to whether Santa Claus is gender neutral, because why not? I mean, the answer is obviously no. Santa Claus is obviously a representation of a man, and the picture that they have here isn't even a gender-neutral Santa either. That's obviously a woman, wearing a fake beard. So when is the gender-queer demi-boy Zia Santa coming? When's that? The Santa with the shaved head and androgynous look. Where's David Bowie's Santa? When we say Santa, you probably think of an old fat guy with a bushy beard. But what if they were a woman or non-binary? They're not. Santa's a man with a fat old guy with a bushy beard. That's the end of the story. What are we even discussing here? But isn't everyone capable of spreading Christmas cheer? It's not a commentary on other people. Santa Claus is just a cultural icon of Western Europe, and that's it. It's just a fat old man. You can invent your own if you want. You can have demi-queer trigender agnostic clause or something. I don't know. I don't care. Do the fuck you like. Just stop trying to fuck with things that already exist. Oh, that's right. You're totally uncreative types, and the only thing you can do is talk about yourselves, isn't it? Because that's what all of this is a reflection of the activists who talk about it. It's not a commentary on the rest of the world. It's a commentary on a bunch of misfits who are just resentful that not everyone is a misfit. That's what it is. And this is coming from someone who's a fucking misfit, okay? So I'm just telling you, I recognize it when I see it. 2018, the year we realized that straight men are no longer allowed to play gay men on TV. This is Darren Criss, and he thinks that he's better than gay men. He thinks he's way better. He is well aware that he is better than any gay man because he will no longer accept LGBT scripts because he doesn't want to deprive those inferior gays of their roles. Now, this isn't my opinion. I'm of the opinion that if he wants to compete for a script and a gay person wants to compete for the script, then the best man should get the job. The person who puts on the best performance in that role and who suits the role the best should get that role. I don't think it should be determined by who puts their winky in what hole on another person, but that's not what Darren Criss thinks. Darren Criss thinks those poor gays, they just can't get a break, and because gays just can't get ahead on their own merits, he has to step down. This great white saviour has to step down and say, sorry, little homosexual, you go ahead, I'll leave the way clear for you, because you can't go over there on your own. Well done to being condescending to the minority, Darren Criss. He said it's been a joy acting in gay roles, but no longer feels comfortable doing so, which is unfortunate. Well, I'm sorry that people make you feel uncomfortable. But I suppose there is one upside to Britain embracing social justice so deeply, and that is accusing someone of being a racist is demonstrably defamatory in this country now. A former SNP councillor has won £40,000 in damages from a party activist who falsely accused her of racism in a row between factions in a local branch. The court case centred on an email by Miss McCulloch, then an assistant to the SNP MSP Richard Lyle to senior party figures, who claimed that Miss McCulty, I can't pronounce these names, they're from a foreign country. Then a North Lanarkshire councillor had made a racist remark while the pair were out campaigning ahead of a council by-election in 2015. My goodness. Saying that she made a racist remark 3 or 4 years ago is enough to get someone to pay 40 grand. I mean, can we agree that this has gone too far? Can we agree this has gone too far? Is this the country that we want to be? One that's so ultra-sensitive to words that now it's costing us tens of thousands of pounds. Do you know what cost her all this money? The lord in question said it was implausible and inherently unlikely that the pursuer, Mrs. McNulty, would have said the statement attributed to her. Well, I guess if he thought it was just not likely that she said it, the activist in question now has to pay £40,000. I probably shouldn't complain that a social justice warrior is getting their comeuppance, but I just want to point out this as just how deeply embedded into British public life intersectionality has become, and the fear of being called a racist or a sexist or whatever. I mean, you can see it in the media row at Jeremy Corbyn's stupid woman comments. There's nothing wrong with him calling Theresa May stupid woman. It's true. And I don't even think he said that. I actually think he did say stupid people. So either way, there's nothing wrong with what he didn't say, even if he had said it. But this goes to show you the kind of malaise and derangement that is gripping our political class at the moment. They're consumed by this. It's everywhere. They think it's some kind of holy gospel that they have to follow. And the Conservatives are in on it too. Everyone's doing this. No wonder I'm such a heretic. I think this is all bullshit. But hey, it could be worse. We could be in California where they're being told off for fat shaming a fucking otter. 2019 is going to be amazing, I'm sure.